Hi, I'm Kelly Geller. Today we're going to be making a traditional crumpet. Typically served with an English tea, crumpets are somewhere in between an English muffin and a pancake. They look like this. They have these gorgeous little craggy holes all over the surface, and the interior is this really light, airy crumb. Now these are a store-bought crumpet, and what I find with store-bought crumpets is they tend to be a little bit bland and a little bit spongy. The recipe that we're going to make today is going to improve on these crumpets a little bit and turn them into something that's got a good balanced flavor and a nice tender crumb. So we're going to start with our dry ingredients. We're going to use flour, an all-purpose flour. We're going to use two types of leavening today. We're going to use a yeast and we're going to use a baking powder. I've also added some kosher salt, and you'll add a little bit of sugar. So we're going to take all of our dry ingredients and we're going to go right into the bowl with them. And I'm going to use a standing mixer with a paddle attachment. And I want to get my dry ingredients mixed before I add my liquid. So I'm just going to mix those together. All right, so those are nice and incorporated. Now I want my liquid to be warm when I add it into the dry ingredients because that's going to help to activate the yeast and get the baking powder going as well. And I like a little bit of fat in the recipe, so I'm going to heat a little bit of butter too. Once you get your butter melted, you just pour in your milk and water. And I find it doesn't take long to get up to temperature. Okay, we're ready to go. Now, if your pan isn't pour friendly, you're going to want to get it into something with a spout, a little pitcher, a measuring cup. There we go. And you'll see why. So now we're going to turn our mixer on low, and we're going to add our liquid ingredients to our dry gradually. If you try to add them all at once, your batter is going to be overly lumpy, and you also run the risk of the liquid pooling in the bottom of the mixer and sloshing out the sides. So I'll show you how that's going to work. So mixer on low, and then just in a steady stream, you're going to add your liquid ingredients. What will happen in here is the dry ingredients will start to absorb the moisture. The dough will get, or it will more resemble a dough for a few minutes, meaning it'll be thicker. The mixer will slow down just like that. And then it'll speed back up as the batter thins out. Okay. Now we're going to take a minute just to scrape down the sides of the bowl. I want to make sure our batter is nice and even. And KitchenAids have that little sort of bump in the bottom of their bowls, so you want to make sure you get around that bump, that there are no dry ingredients caked in the bottom of that. Now we're going to beat that on medium for 15 seconds. Okay. So what that step does is it helps us develop a little bit of body. We're developing the gluten that's going to form from the liquids joining with the protein in the flour, and that's going to give our crumpet some structure. So what we're going to do now, we're going to cover it tightly with plastic wrap, and we're going to put it in a warm spot. It doesn't have to be super warm because there's, remember, a little bit of warmth in this bowl already from us heating our liquid to 110, 115 degrees. So we're going to set this aside and we're going to let it rise for an hour. So our batter has risen for an hour. I want you to check this out. So the yeast and the baking powder have been doing their work. And check out that gorgeous, gorgeous bubbled batter. Look at all those holes in there. So that's what's going to help us make that really beautiful airy crumb in the center of the crumpet and those nice craggy holes on top. So what I've got in this griddle over here is I have 4 English muffin molds. You could use a round biscuit cutter, you could use a round cookie cutter. We're looking for about 3.5 inches in diameter. If you're using a skillet on the stove, the key here is low heat. And by low, I mean low, not medium low, really low heat. So we've got a really low flame. The second step is you want to make sure you preheat the rings in the griddle for 5 minutes so they're nice and warm, okay? The next step is we're going to give them a quick spray so we make sure that they release easily. So I just go around the inside of each and you kind of hit the bottom at the same time. Now we're going to use a 3-ounce ladle. You could use a 1/4 cup to a 1/3 cup measure if you want as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to start down in the bottom of our bowl. So we're going to take our ladle all the way down. We're going to ladle up and into the molds we go. Okay, so we've got those in our molds. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna cook them just like that, leave them be for 4 minutes. So our 4 minutes is up, and that means it's time to remove the rings from the crumpets. We're gonna use just a pair of kitchen tongs, and we're gonna grab the side gently and lift straight up. One of the key things to making crumpets is they're not supposed to develop a lot of color on the top and the sides. The bottom will get golden brown, but that's it. You can just take those off and set those aside for your next batch. All right. Okay, we're gonna let those cook for 4 more minutes, and then we're gonna flip them over. All right, so our crumpets have now cooked an additional 4 minutes, and you can see it's starting to dry around the edges, starting to look set on the top, and that lets us know that it's time to flip. So we're gonna go in and flip those over. Look at that. So beautiful golden brown, but not too much color. And we're gonna cook these for 2 more minutes on the other side. And again, we don't wanna develop color, we just wanna set the batter. We're gonna take them off the heat, and all we are looking to do is set the bottom, but not develop too much color. So you can remove these to a cooling rack. And if you make these ahead, you can reheat them in a toaster or a warm oven. Best eaten warm though. We're gonna put a couple on a plate here. And we're gonna top them with a little bit of butter. This is a blueberry preserve. Marmalade is very traditional to top a crumpet with as well. And there you have it, traditional crumpets.